Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar, Monitoring with the FDPIR Inventory Calculators, What You Need to Know. My name is Sam Hunley and I'm today's moderator. Before I introduce our speakers, I would like to review a couple of features of the webinar platform that we're using today. To the right of the slides, you should see a Q&A box. You can type answers here, or questions here rather, and we will answer them during the Q&A period. We'll be taking questions at multiple points during today's presentation, and you'll also have several opportunities to ask questions over the phone. If you have any unanswered questions at the end of today's presentation, we'll provide a question box where you can leave questions for us to respond at a later time via email. Just be sure to provide your contact information. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a box that includes a number of files that you can download. These files include a PDF of today's slides, the standard operating procedures for using CSFP and FDPIR inventory management calculators, the FDPIR inventory calculator itself, as well as instructions on how to use it, and a completion certificate documenting your participation today. At the end of today's presentation, we'll open up a series of polling questions regarding your experience. We would greatly appreciate you taking the time to evaluate the webinar to help us as we plan future presentations. With that, let's get started. Presenting today will be Polly Fairfield from the Policy Branch and Matthew Martin from the Household Operations Branch. Polly will be leading us off today, so take it away, Polly.
Thanks, Sam. First, I'm going to go over the agenda for the webinar. We'll start with a brief background of the FDPIR Inventory Calculator and its development. Then we'll discuss how the inventory calculator works and how to analyze the results. We'll also talk about the FDPIR inventory management SOPs and some key takeaways. Then I'll turn it over to Matthew, who will discuss the ordering and planning process. And finally, we'll close with a look at some of the national trends in FDPIR inventory levels and some ways we use the data from these calculators. In 2014, FNS created an FDPIR inventory calculator workgroup to develop a tool to help regional offices monitor inventories. The first version was released in September of 2014. The FDPIR inventory calculator is a tool meant for regional offices as part of the regular monitoring of FDPIR inventory levels. The calculator is also used as a quarterly reporting tool to conduct a full national review of all ITO inventories. We encourage regional offices to use the calculator as a management evaluation tool and to monitor inventories on a regular basis. The FDPIR inventory calculator is currently intended for internal FNS staff use only, but can be shared with ITOs as a part of the monitoring process. Before we go into how to run and use the calculator, it's helpful to understand the logic behind the calculator and the inventory estimate that it produces. The FDPIR Inventory Calculator is a Microsoft Excel-based tool which combines data from the FNS 152 and web-based supply chain management order reports to show a months-on-hand inventory level for each food package category. You can see the basic inventory formula on the slide. The calculator reads the FNS 152 report to get the number of units in inventory or food on hand, and it reads the WebSCM reports to get the number of units scheduled for delivery in our calculator period, or the food on order. It then adds those two totals together to give us the total number of units available for distribution. The calculator then subtracts the total food that will be needed for distribution during the calculator period, and this is calculated by multiplying the months in the calculator period by the amount of food issued in 1 month. This gives us the total units available at the end date of the calculator. The calculator then divides the total number of units available on the calculator end date by the amount of food issued in 1 month, or the monthly food issuance. This gives us the estimated months on hand amount for the end date of the calculator. For monthly food issuance, the calculator uses two different estimation methods, the take rate method and the max guide rate method. The take rate method is based on the 3-month average issuance of each product from reported issuance on FNS 152s, and the max guide rate method is based on average participation in FDPIR monthly distribution guide rates. I'll be discussing both of these estimates in more detail later on in the webinar. So, why do we care about inventory levels? Inventory levels that are either too high or too low can hurt the program. High inventories increase the risk that USDA foods will go out of condition before they can be distributed. Food losses also cost the program money. On the flip side, low inventories hurt the program as well. They increase the risk that an ITO will not have enough food to meet food package requirements. FNS recommends that ITOs maintain inventories at 1 to 3 months by food package category. This is the level that will enable an ITO to ensure it has enough product on hand to meet food package needs, to ensure that product can be distributed before it goes out of condition, and to ensure that FDPIR program resources are not being overtaxed nationally. Maintaining at least 1 month of inventory for each food package category is recommended as a best practice, but is not a regulatory requirement. ITOs must offer all households full food packages based on the FDPIR monthly distribution guide rate as per 7 CFR Part 253, and so they must ensure that they have sufficient food on hand in each food package category to meet this requirement. Exceeding 3 months on hand is a violation of the regulations at 7 CFR Part 250 and is prohibited. Now that you know the basic calculation that the calculator performs, let's walk through how to complete the FDPIR Inventory Calculator. These steps are also outlined in more detail in the FDPIR Inventory Calculator instructions, which, as we pointed out earlier, are attached to the bottom of the webinar screen. Step 1 of completing the inventory calculator is to download all the data for the ITO. First, download the 3 most recent FNS 152 reports from FDPIR. Note, these should be from the 3 most recent months, not just the 3 most recent available. Sometimes there are 2 FNS 152s available for the same month. For example, if there are corrections made to the FNS 152 in that month. Next, download WebSCM order reports from the day after the most recent 152 reporting month and to the last day of the month you want to review. Make sure to download both multi-food orders and direct orders as necessary. Step 2 is to copy and paste the FNS 152s into the corresponding inventory calculator tabs. The most recent FNS 152 will go into the tab labeled Most Recent FNS 152 Month 1, as you can see in the example. In this example, July would go in the Month 1 tab, June in the Month 2, and May in the Month 3 tab. Step 3 is to copy and paste the downloaded WebSCM orders into the Direct Orders and Multi-Orders tabs. Make sure that all orders are dated after the last day of the most recent FNS 152 and that no canceled orders have been included. Note that most FDPIR ITOs only order from the multi-food warehouse and don't order directs, but some ITOs do order both, so be sure to check. Step 4 is to fill out the ITO name and calculator dates. Cell E2 should be the last day of the most recent FNS 152 month. Cell E3 should be the last day of the month for which WebSCM orders have been included. If you're completing the calculator for the purposes of sending to the national office, you'll put in the last day of the inventory calculator report month. For example, if the reporting month is January, you're going to enter the date January 31st, 2018. And if you're using the inventory calculator to predict future orders, the date you insert will depend on how far ahead you want to look at inventory levels. So if you input orders through the end of March and want to look at what inventory levels will look like at that time, you'll type in the date March 31st, 2018. If you don't include any orders from WebSCM, you can still run a calculator only using FNS 152s. In this scenario, the date will be the same for both the calculator end date and the most recent FNS 152 end date. This calculator will show a snapshot in time of what inventory levels look like at the end of the most recent FNS 152 month. You can analyze orders as far in the future as there are orders available. Step 5 is to check for errors. This checklist is included in greater detail in the FDPIR Inventory Calculator instructions, but I'll briefly go over what to check for. First, check to make sure the submitted calculator is the most recent version. Next, check that dates are entered correctly into cells E2 and E3. Next, check that the 3 most recent months of FNS 152s are pasted into the correct calculator tabs. You can verify this by checking if the data is showing up in the Units on Inventory column or column C in the calculator. Similarly, check that all multi-food and direct orders are pasted into the correct tabs. You can verify this with the Units on Order column or column D on the calculator. And finally, are the orders from the correct ITO with the correct date and with no canceled orders included. We'll pause here to see if there's any questions on anything I've covered so far on how to complete the FDPIR inventory calculator.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any questions on the phone, you can press star then 0 on your phone. You will hear an acknowledgement tone. An operator will take your name and then further instruct you. If you are using a speakerphone, please pick up the handset before pressing the numbers. Again, any questions on the phone, press star then 0. We have no one queuing up for a question on the phone.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on and note that we'll have more time for questions later on in the presentation. So now that we've covered how to complete the calculator, let's go over a quick scenario. And you should be able to answer this in real time using the pop-up box that's showing up on your webinar screen. So I'm completing the calculator for the month of January 2018 to submit to the national office. The most recent FNS 152 I have is from December 2017. Which date should I use for the most recent FNS 152 end date and the calculator end date? Would the correct dates be A, December 31st and January 31st, B, December 31st and January 1st, or C, November 30th and December 31st? Okay, well, it looks like most of you chose answer A, which is the correct answer. For this scenario, the most recent FNS 152 date should be December 31st, 2017, and the calculator end date should be January 31st, 2018. Now that we've given you a brief history of the inventory calculator and walked you through how it works, I want to discuss the many different ways the inventory calculator can be used. First, as we've already discussed, you can use the inventory calculator for measuring inventory levels in real time to determine if an ITO's inventory levels are in the recommended range. You can also estimate inventory levels in future months to evaluate if an ITO is over or under ordering. Using the calculator in this manner can help you determine whether an ITO needs to cancel any existing orders and which specific orders to cancel. It can also help you to realize if you're going to be low on inventories of a certain food package category so you can make any needed direct or multi-food orders in a timely manner. The inventory calculator can also be used in preparation for a management evaluation. We recommend that you run the calculator using the most recent FNS 152 available to get a snapshot of current inventory levels before you conduct the ME. In order to use the calculator in any of the ways we just discussed, you'll need to be able to interpret and analyze the results. First, let's discuss the two different months-on-hand estimates and how to interpret them. The take rate method is based on the 3-month average issuance of each product from reported issuance on FNS 152s. It's found on column O of the inventory calculator. The take rate method generally provides a more accurate estimate since it takes into account how much of each product is actually issued in 1 month. Many participants choose not to take the full amount in every food package category, so the take rate method will often show a higher months-on-hand estimate than the max guide rate method. The max guide rate method is based on average participation over the 3-month period in the FDPIR monthly distribution guide rates. It is found in column U of the inventory calculator. This is the maximum that an ITO could distribute in 1 month given average participation. This tends to be less accurate than the take rate method, but it's a good conservative estimate of how much food could be distributed in 1 month. When analyzing the calculator, it is helpful to look at both of these estimates. One of the first things to look at when analyzing an inventory calculator is the months-on-hand estimates and if they're higher or lower than the recommended 1 to 3 month range for inventories. The calculator highlights these in red text or shading, as you can see by the color key on the slide. For the purposes of regulatory compliance with the 3-month inventory limit, we generally look at the max guide rate method. And for low inventory levels, generally below 1 month or negative, and to ensure that ITOs are serving full food packages, we look at the take rate method. After identifying any high or low inventory levels based on the two estimates, we also want to look for any issuance problems. One way to do this is to compare the difference between the take rate method and the max guide rate method. If the take rate method is significantly higher than the max guide rate method, this could signal that a zero issuance or a very low issuance of a food package category occurred on one or more of the FNS 152s. If you see a very large difference between these two numbers, consult the FNS 152 to confirm. In the ITO example shown on the slide, zero issuances of bakery mix were identified in October and November. Another way to spot possible issuance problems is to compare the average monthly issuance with the most recent month's issuance. The 1 month issuance should be close to the average. If the average issuance is much lower or higher than the most recent month's issuance and participation has remained stable, then there may be an issuance problem. You can also compare both of these numbers to the maximum monthly issuance in column R. If both are much lower than the maximum monthly issuance, then the category has very low issuance, which could be due to an inventory issue or participant preference. In this example, you can see a possible issuance problem in the second to last row. If we compare column G, which is 275, to column L, which is 75, we can see a very large difference. This likely means that the ITO had low or zero issuances on 1 or more months. We would look at the FNS 152 to confirm. The other rows here look fine. In each case, the most recent issuance and average issuance are very similar to each other and to the maximum monthly issuance. Additionally, you should be looking for NA displaying in the take rate estimate column. This displays when the average monthly issuance is zero, meaning that no product was reported as issued on any of the 3 FNS 152s in the calculator. Again, we would look at the FNS 152s to confirm that this is the case. And we're going to pause here again to see if there's any questions on analyzing the calculator.
And if you do have any questions on the phone, press star then 0 on your phone keypad. If you are using a speakerphone, please pick up the handset before pressing the numbers. We have no questions on the phone. Please continue.
Thank you. And I do want to remind everyone that you can ask questions both on the phone or by using the Q&A box on the webinar screen. But we'll go ahead and move on, and we'll have another chance to ask questions again at a later time in the webinar. So now that we've covered the basic analysis you can do with a calculator, let's go over another scenario. So what inventory issues do you see for cereal in the example on this slide? A, very high inventory levels. B, zero or low issuance for 1 or more months. Or C, no issues. So it looks like most of you answered B, which is the correct answer. Based on this calculator, it looks like cereal had zero or very low issuance for 1 or more months. There's a very large difference between the take rate and the months on hand, which usually indicates an issuance problem. Additionally, the issuance on the most recent FNS 152 is much higher than the average monthly issuance. This usually means that the average is skewed due to low or no issuance in a month. To verify this, we would look at the FNS 152s to see what the issuance for cereal actually was in these 3 months. Now that you know how to complete and analyze an inventory calculator, we're going to talk a little bit about how the inventory calculator fits into the larger inventory management process. As you probably know, we have a standard operating procedures document for FDPIR and CSFD inventory management. This document was created by a work group of national office and regional office staff and was released in fiscal year 2016. The document provides guidance on regular monitoring of inventories by regional office staff, use of the CSFP and FDPIR inventory calculators, how to evaluate inventories during management evaluations, how to address excess inventories and food package problems, and best practices for inventory management. The document provides a lot of valuable information on inventory management, but today I'm just going to touch on a few topics. The FDPIR inventory management SOPs include a standardized FDPIR inventory calculator review schedule. Regional offices submit inventory calculators for all ITOs and state agencies administering FDPIR each quarter with the schedule outlined on the slide. The calculator includes a notes field that should be used to note any inventory issues found and any follow-up done with the ITO. Once received, FDD staff review the inventory calculators and provide any necessary feedback by the end of the month. The data from these calculators is also compiled into a national FDPIR inventories review. We'll touch on the fiscal year 2017 review later on in the webinar. The SOPs also lay out detailed procedures and actions to take for any excess or low inventory issues. I'm going to briefly go over each scenario in the SOPs, but more detail is included in the SOP document, which, as we mentioned earlier, is attached to the bottom of the webinar screen. The first scenario in the SOPs is moderate excess inventory issues, which is any food package category over 3 months and under 6 months. Again, note that for our purposes, this is based on the maximum guide rate method, or column U, in the inventory calculator. For any food package categories over 3 months and under 6 months, you should use the inventory calculator to evaluate ITO orders and identify any that can be canceled or rescheduled. To do this, you may need to extend the calculator end date by a month or two and add in future months' orders to see if any need to be canceled. You should also contact the ITO to let them know that high inventory levels are out of compliance with the regulations and provide any technical assistance or assistance canceling orders as necessary. In the example on this slide, we've identified a moderate issue. The max guide rate column shows 4 months on hand. The note describes the actions taken. In this case, the ITO was told not to order more until their inventory level went down and to make sure that they were able to distribute product before the best if used by date. The next scenario is persistent or extreme excess inventories or food package categories with inventory levels over 6 months or moderate excesses that do not show improvement after technical assistance is provided. As before, the first step, if you find an inventory level of 6 months, is to analyze ITO orders and see if any need to be canceled or adjusted. Next, review the problem to see if you can find the origin of the issue. For example, declining participation or consistent overordering. You should also review and approve future orders until the inventory levels are reduced and continue to use the inventory calculator monthly until the issue is resolved. In the example on this slide, we've identified a more extreme inventory issue. Peanuts and fruit nut mix are over 6 months on hand. The note describes what actions were taken. Canceling an order, working with the ITO to hold off on future orders, and reminding them of potential best if used by issues. We can also see persistent office and the ITO to reduce inventory levels as quickly and efficiently as possible. Again, you should see if any future orders need to be canceled, figure out the origin of the issue, and develop a monitoring strategy for inventory levels moving forward. You should also be approving any future orders until the issue is resolved. Additionally, in this situation, provide status updates to the national office while the issue is ongoing. In the scenario on this slide, we can see that soup is over 10 months. The note tells us that the ITO will not be ordering and that technical assistance is ongoing. Finally, low inventories can also be an issue if they're consistently below 1 month, there's zero issuance of a food package category, or if the ITO is running out or ran out of a food package category. If there are consistently low or very low inventory levels, you should first contact the ITO to determine why inventory levels are so low and make sure that participants are being offered a full food package. Additionally, check to see if incoming orders are sufficient to meet current need and forecast future inventory levels with the inventory calculator. If additional inventory operations branch ordering specialists for assistance in replenishing inventories. Additionally, provide training and technical assistance as necessary. In the scenario on this slide, the ITO has less than a month of crackers and tortillas. From the note, we can see that the regional office checked to make sure incoming orders would be sufficient to replenish inventories and checked in with the ITO. Okay, we're going to pause again to see if there's any questions on the FDPIR inventory management SOPs and excess and low inventory management procedures.
And if you do have any questions on the phone, press star then 0 on your phone keypad. And if you're using a speakerphone, pick up the handset before pressing the numbers. Again, that is star then 0.
Okay, well, we will have additional time for questions at the end as well if you think of anything as we are moving on. So now let's move on to another scenario on excess and low inventory levels. So in the example on this slide, what follow-up is needed for the crackers and tortillas category? Is it A, evaluate orders and cancel as necessary and provide assistance in adjusting future orders? B, evaluate orders and cancel as necessary, approve future orders, and continue using inventory calculator monthly until issue is resolved? Or C, immediately alert the national office, cancel orders as necessary, approve future orders, and continue using the inventory calculator monthly until the issue is resolved? Okay, again, it looks like most of you answered B, which is the correct answer. In this situation, crackers and tortillas are over 6 months, but not over 10 months. This is considered an extreme excess inventory level, and so answer B is correct. Now I'm going to turn it over to Matthew, who's going to discuss food ordering and planning for FDPIR.
Thanks. So today I want to discuss what we in Household Operations Branch can do to help with any inventory issues that ITOs may be having. I'd like to give a background of our ordering processes to begin. So in Household Operations Branch, we purchase all of our food the same way on the same schedule. And that's for FDPIR, for the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. And the three main ways that we purchase foods are we purchase them annually or yearly, quarterly, and monthly. So for our annual, yearly products, those are typically our seasonal fruits and vegetables. So it once was known as our IDIQ canned fruits and vegetables. For the quarterly products, those are most of our other products, such as cereals, beef roasts, and juices. And then our monthly items are typically just the cheeses and the ground beef. So when we get ready to procure, we have to have all of the sales orders and the National Warehouse Purchase Requisitions in the WebSDM system to then send those over to AMS. The due dates for the ITOs with direct delivery orders and the National Warehouse Replenishment orders differ depending on those times that we are soliciting for those products. So for the annual products, the seasonal fruits and vegetables, for all of our 2019 orders, those are due in the system by February or early March of 2018. For biannual, which we only purchase for tuna for the FDPIR program, those are just due in late summer or early winter. For our quarterly purchases, again, something like cereals or juices, you can see on the slide that January through March, those orders are typically due into WebSCM by October. For April through June, those are typically due in January, et cetera, et cetera. And so for monthly items, such as our cheese, those items are typically due in WebSCM 2 months prior to the delivery date. And so on this slide, I just wanted to give a visual of the different products we have in those time frames. So you can see in the first column, we have all of our seasonal fruits and vegetables that are due. Those are annual. So again, for 2019, those are due in February, March. And then you have our quarterly items, which include things like beans and egg mix and, again, juices. And then our monthly, which are cheese and ground beef. So at the national warehouse level, when we create replenishment orders for the national warehouses for the ITOs to order from, we're looking at trends over the last few months. We want to make sure that we have enough inventory in the warehouse for ITOs to be able to order what the variety that they desire. And how we get those trends are we look at the multi-food replenishment reports for the previous 3 months, and we take an average of those items for each warehouse. And so adjustments can be made due to increased participation and product availability, meaning if we know that in our juices, apple juice, let's say, was not in stock for a month, well, the take rate may look lower, so we will adjust that inventory rate or that take rate to make sure that we are creating orders to have adequate product available in the national warehouse. And so for the ITO, for their multi-food orders, I just want to discuss what their timelines are. And to begin, the delivery schedules that ITOs have for the upcoming year, those are typically negotiated with the national warehouses at the end of the current year, or at the end of the previous year for the following year. So therefore, all of 2018 delivery dates should have been negotiated at the end of 2017. Sites can make delivery dates non-delivery dates. And so what that means is if an ITO typically wants their order on the second Thursday of every month, but that second Thursday in April happens to be a tribal holiday, well, they can make that day a non-delivery day and then negotiate with the warehouse for a different delivery date. So ordering for a set delivery date does imply consent to receive an order. The warehouse is not contractually obligated to call for an appointment, but we do know that both Paris Brothers and Nampa do make those calls. And last, multi-food ordering, it's available to ITOs typically 30 business days prior to the scheduled delivery date. Also, orders must be entered by the ITO 8 business days preceding the delivery date. So to count those days, you do not count the delivery date. So if you're looking at a delivery date of January 30th, 2018, you would count back 8 business days, and the last date for an ITO to enter their order would be January 18th, 2018. Holidays and weekends are not counted in those 8 days. Also, to avoid confusion or any sort of mishaps by the warehouse or any kind of issues with an order, there should only be one multi-food order per site per delivery. and each material should only be listed on the order once. So if an ITO wants to, let's say that they seem like they're going to run out of apple juice and they want to add that to their existing order, they do not need to create a new order. They would simply either, if it's within their time frame, they can add that, or they can add those cases to their existing order, or ask you, the region, to help them add those cases. But please do not add a new order, a new delivery order, multi-food order, sorry. Now, how can we help if you notice any issues you're seeing in the calculators? Well, changes to multi-food orders can be made no fewer than 8 business days prior to delivery by the ITO, no fewer than 5 business days prior to delivery by either the FNS regional contact or here at headquarters, or no fewer than 3 business days prior to delivery in very unique circumstances. Now, typically that's not going to, we're not going to be able to make those changes if it's 3 business days or fewer, but if you're noticing some real big issues, you should definitely let us know here, either myself or Hunjin, so that we can contact the warehouse and see if the truck has left. Because if the truck has not left the warehouse, we may be able to get the warehouse to pull that off the order or off the truck, but there's no guarantees once it reaches the 3 business days. Also, for direct deliveries, which we know that only a few ITOs receive, only the following changes can be made to these orders. These can only be canceled prior to being approved for solicitation. So whenever the order is approved by SDA status, you can make changes to those. If it's in approved by sponsoring agency status, typically we're not going to be able to make changes to those orders. And these orders can only be redirected after the award has been made and a new destination has been designated. Once you've designated a new destination, you would send this in the approved PO mod spreadsheet. You would send this to the PO mod email as well as the headquarters specialist. The PO mod email is found on the resources slide, which I believe is at the end of this slide deck. And also, PO modifications must be submitted to headquarters within 45 days of the scheduled delivery. So on this slide, I wanted to just give you a visual of who does what here in Household Operations Branch, and who you would need to send something to if you had a PO modification. Again, along with make sure you're sending that to the PO mod mailbox. And so you can see here that Hunjin Lee is the National Warehouse Contact for FDPIR Kansas City, and I, Matthew Martin, am the contact for FDPIR Nampa. And also, I wanted to point out here, when you or the ITO should be contacting the national warehouse, or they should be contacting their regional contact, or you contacting us. And so the ITO should only be contacting the warehouse if they're having issues with their delivery dates, or there's some sort of delivery issue with the order coming in and it's, the pallets are cracked or something like that. However, they should be also letting you at the region know that, so that we can know here at headquarters and discuss that with our warehouse folks. If the ITO is having any questions about product availability, any questions about order management, any product complaints, any receipting issues, any order verification, or WebSTM issues, they should be coming to you at the region, and then you can come to either myself or Hunjin. And here you can see on this slide we have that the Americold Nampa warehouse, I wanted to show what regions are pulling out of there, and I, Matthew Martin, am the FNS headquarters contact, and Susan Anderson is the Americold point of contact for the ITOs. And at Paris Brothers, those regions should be contacting Hunjin Lee if they have any issues, and the ITOs should be contacting Steve Wolf if there's any delivery date or delivery issues. And now, are there any questions?
And if you do have any questions on the phone, you're going to press star then 0 on your phone keypad.
All right.
We have no questions on the phone.
We do have a question typed in from Courtney regarding contract modification requests. It has been 30 days before the start of delivery period for non-IDQ products and 45 days before IDIQ. Has there been a change to this? Is it now 45 days for all products?
Right. So I misspoke. So it is 45 for IDIQ and 30 for non-IDIQ. I did leave that part out, and I do apologize. So thanks for catching me on that, Courtney.
Good job, Courtney.
I was just making sure you were paying attention. That's all. Okay. All right. All right, so in this scenario, Tribe A has a delivery scheduled for December 20th, 2017. However, they have not put in their order yet. True or false? The final day the ITO can put their order in is December 18th, 2017. Oh, wow, 100%. That's right. That is false. The last day the ITO can enter their order is December 8th. So again, an ITO has until 8 business days prior to their delivery date to get their multi-food order into WebSCM. I will hand it back to Polly.
Thanks, Matthew. We're going to wrap up with a look at some of the national trends that we've been able to put together from the data from these inventory calculators. As I mentioned earlier, we began the FDPIR Inventory Calculator review process in 2014, so we have almost 4 years of data now. This graph on the slide tracks the total percentage of FDPIR food package categories from all ITOs that are within the recommended range of 1 to 3 months. As you can see, we've made a lot of improvement, from 54% of categories within the recommended range in 2014 to 67% in October 2017, which is the most recent month that we have data available. This graph also shows a lot of improvement from when we first implemented the review process. In 2014, 36% of ITOs had at least one food package category with an inventory level of over 6 months. In October 2017, that number had fallen to 13%, the lowest it's been so far. Another way we've been able to use the data collected from the inventory calculators is to provide supporting data for the FDPIR Food Package Review Workgroup. This November, the workgroup met, and one of the topics of discussion was the grains available in the food package. The chart above provides the average take rate per FDPIR participant across the nation for the 3 food package categories listed: pasta rice, cornmeal flour, and bakery mix. From the chart, you can see that nationally, the take rates for each of these categories is well below the maximum guide rate. For pasta rice, the average participant takes about 4 out of 5 possible pounds. For cornmeal flour, the average participant takes about 1.3 units out of 2. And for bakery mix, the average participant takes about 0.24 pounds out of 0.29 pounds. This data and data like it can be used to help make informed decisions about the makeup of the food package and provide information about participant preferences. So we're going to wrap up with some resources available to you. We have many resources available as you're using the calculators and monitoring inventories. All of the FDPIR inventory management tools are available on the FDD Internet homepage. The FDPIR Inventory Calculator, the instructions, and the CSFP and FDPIR inventory management SOPs. You can also contact us for any technical assistance you may need using the FDPIR Inventories inbox, the PO Mod inbox, or by contacting a member of the headquarters FDPIR Inventory Calculators team listed on this slide. Thank you all for participating in today's webinar. We've got quite a bit of time left for any additional questions you have for anything we've covered today, or really any questions you have on the inventory calculator process or inventory monitoring. And while we're having the discussion, there's going to be a few polling questions popping up on the screen, like Sam had mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, just general questions. And then also there, if you have a question that you don't want to ask now but you want an answer to, you can use the question box and just give us your question and your contact information, and we can talk to you offline about it.